Y'all have a great holiday.
Yeah.
She's coming up to say hi.
Are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Kathy, amen.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I don't know what I'm gonna do if I don't have anybody to cut up with anymore.
You can still come and cut up with us.
Yeah, I don't think they're locked the door.
No.
Yeah, I got an extra
Well,
key.
good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to bring us back together and bring us out of closed session. So if we could, Ms. Bess, proceed with coming out of closed session. Up here.
Does she have a copy of?
Didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Now we can be official. Thank you. The following resolution is required. Be it resolved that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements and only such matters as were identified in the motion to go into closed session were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed session. Do I have a motion to come out of
Motion
closed
to
session?
accept.
Second?
Second.
Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. We are now out of closed session. So to start our meeting today, we would like to have a moment of silence. This is obviously a wonderful time of the year to reflect upon what we have done, what we hope to do, and to really appreciate the special time and the symbolism and the traditions that we all hold dear. So I ask that we all take a few moments together in silence to appreciate all that we have and all that we hope to be. Thank you all for that time. Now I would like to invite to the dais our world's greatest elf. This young man blessed us all with homemade cookies and Christmas treats prior to the meeting. And now Aiden is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all stand.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Aiden. Before we begin our agenda items, I would like to ask for a motion that Dr. Scott Horn is able to join us virtually if he is able. He is not feeling well and I think at the doctor right now, but should he be able to and want to join us later for the rest of this meeting and the evening session, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So
Vice Chair. Motion.
Second,
Sorry.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll begin item number 2, our introduction and recognitions. Julie Phillips, you are first on the list. If you would like to come down, please.
Julie. Hello.
Oh,
Good afternoon, members of the board. It is my privilege today to introduce you to one of our newer full-time employees at the Eagle Rock Library. This is Rebecca Burnett. She is a library assistant. She actually joined us in July 2022 as a part-time library assistant, and then moved into a full-time position in mid-August. So we have been very pleased that she has taken on more responsibility. Rebecca came to us from the Allegheny Highlands Regional Library previously, where she also was a library assistant there and spent a lot of her time with children, as she does now. So when she was at Allegheny, she led the STEAM Children's Program, Teen Book Club, helped with their summer reading programs, and managed the library's social media. So she has done things. At the Eagle Rock Library, she leads story times, helps with children's programming, and is just doing a fantastic job. So please join me in welcoming her to our team.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait for a picture.
Smile.
Thank you and welcome. Mr. Ferguson, Chief Ferguson, if you would like to come down with your new employees.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the board. Thank you for having us this afternoon. With me, I have two of our latest graduates from the Roanoke Regional Training Center Academy number 35. To my immediate left is Devin Goins. Devin comes to us from Stewart, Virginia, where his father was a volunteer firefighter for over 30 years and got him into the business. And he joined our team back in late June and has been in Academy ever since. And to his immediate left is Logan Price. Logan originally comes from the Danville area, spent some time in Lynchburg as a law enforcement officer, is in the Army Reserves, had a deployment in Somalia, and holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Both of these gentlemen went through the rigors of over 22 weeks of training at the academy to get their firefighter and EMT credentials. And this week are in the process of onboarding to start their official 24-hour shifts after the first of the year. So we'd just like to congratulate and welcome them.
Congratulations and thank you very much.
Still take your pick. And while she's taking pictures, I have something that's not on the agenda, if I may, for just a moment. As we know, Mr. Martin's maturing off the board after this month. And can you come down? I've
He's
got
down
something I'd like.
maturing off.
Maturing,
Okay.
yeah.
Must mean I'm leaving.
So, it might be a surprise, but it's been 5 years, and this past Sunday, that I've been serving as chief of the department. And over those 5 years, we've had two board members that have been part of the Fire and EMS Executive Board. And Mr. Martin has been in that tenured seat for the whole 5 years that I've been serving in the position. And I know Chief Beckner's in the room with us that serves currently. And of course, Ms. White serves currently. But as a token of our appreciation for your extra service, we wanted to present you with this little plaque.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
How about a short, Billy, how about a short speech?
Short speech, thank
That'll do, that'll do.
Thank you so much, Chief. If we could move on now to our Employee Service Awards, Ms. Blackburn, if you would come down.
Well done.
Gary.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. It's the time of year to present Years of Service Awards to employees who have achieved fifth-year anniversaries with the county. This year, we have 12 employees who are being recognized, service ranging from 5 years to 20 years. Some of them are in person and others are unable to be here. The first person on our list is Freddie Hostetter from the Maintenance Department with 5 years of service. Go home. Next, we have Lindsay King from the Commissioner of Revenue's Office, 5 years of service. And I believe Lindsay is unable to be with us. Next, we have Seth Moles, Fire and EMS, 5 years of service. Next, we have Kelly Nicely with the Treasurer's Office, 5 years of service. Next is Charles Simmons with the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, 5 years of service. I found out earlier he's been delayed in court and cannot be with us. Next is Mahesh Taylor, Technology Services Department, 5 years of service, and Mahesh cannot be with us.
Can't believe he's
Next, Shelby Bryant, Sports Complex, 10 years of service. And I believe Shelby is unable to be here. Next is me, Mary Blackburn, Human Resources, 15 years. Next, David Lalish, Maintenance Department, 15 years. And David is unable to be with us. Next is Doug Marsh, Maintenance Department, 15 years. He is unable to be with us. Next is Sarah Pugh, Fire and EMS, 15 years of service. Okay, and the last person on our list is Kathy King Ripley, Fincastle Library, with 20 years of service.
So I'm going to move to here for the next part of the agenda, which is also not on there. But as many of us know, today marks a bittersweet occasion as we bid farewell to 2 individuals who have invested significant time and effort into enhancing the well-being of our county. These gentlemen have exhibited true leadership, particularly in navigating the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate their remarkable achievements. Dr. Richard Bailey, your service to our community as a Botetourt County Board of Supervisors member since 2018 has been invaluable. Serving both as chair and vice chair of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, you contributed your time and expertise to the Economic Development Authority, Agricultural Projects Committee, General Fund Budget Subcommittee, School Budget Committee. I would add that as a member or as the person on the Agricultural Projects Committee, you led an effort to return COVID relief dollars to farmers in our area, which as an agriculturalist was much appreciated. And also it is one of the only efforts of its kind that I heard about in this Commonwealth. So thank you for that and for all your other efforts. Mr. Billy Martin, your commitment to our community as a member of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors since 2008 has been outstanding. Throughout your tenure, you assumed the role of chair of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors and dedicated your efforts to various committees and organizations, including, but not limited to, the Department of Social Services, the Planning Commission, the TAP Board of Directors, Fire and EMS Committee, General Fund Budget Committee, School Budget Committee, the Roanoke Regional Partnership, the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission Transportation Planning, and Planning Organizational Policy Board. Mr. Clinton, would you join me up here? And do you have any words that you would like to add to this?
Well, I've had the pleasure of serving with both gentlemen, and they are energetic, innovative, and just a class act, both of you guys. And we appreciate what you've done. You've advanced the county through times difficult and prosperous, and you've made it a better county all the way through. So it's been my pleasure and distinct honor to serve with both of y'all. And it's absolutely true, simple statement. You're going to be missed.
Likewise.
Best of luck to you. Want me to come up?
Yeah, if you could. Personally, I appreciate both your mentorship as I am not anymore, but was the newest member on the board. You have both been a mentor to me. You have taught me so much. And I just want to echo what Mr. Clinton said about being upstanding human beings. You are two fine examples of character and work ethic that should be duplicated in all aspects of our world. And I appreciate you both so much. And I cannot think of two better people to have served with. The grit, determination, and wise counsel of both Dr. Bailey and Mr. Martin have played a pivotal role in shaping our county. We take pride in having had the opportunity to work alongside you and express our best wishes for your future endeavors. To show our gratitude, we have a small token of appreciation that we would like to present to each of you. So if you could come down, please.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
I'll say a few words, Amy, if it's okay. So, I'd like to say personally that I really appreciate the kind words today. But I think the accolades go with the people who serve on this board and will continue to serve on this board. Fine group of people. It has been a pleasure to work with you all. I think we've accomplished a lot, and you will continue to accomplish a lot. I want to thank the administration Mr. LaRue and his staff are fabulous and they work hard. All of the county departments, good men and women, constitutionals and their staffs. They work every day to keep Botetourt open and moving forward, and it has been a pleasure to watch that process and understand how it works, and gave me a great deal of confidence in the future of Botetourt County. Again, I appreciate your support through all this and the kind words today. So thank you very much.
Madam Chairman. Well, I too would like to thank everyone on staff and the Board of Supervisors and everyone that's made my time on the board so much easier. The different committees I've been on, just as Jason mentioned this morning on the Fire and EMS Executive Committee, I've enjoyed every committee I've been on, I've enjoyed, and I've learned from it. And, we laugh and we cut up and we have fun, and there's got to be some humor in what you do. If you don't have any humor, it's not much fun at all. But I would like to thank everyone in the county. I have never had one cross word from an employee in Botetourt County in 16 years, not one. And they've been so good to me, and I just appreciate that. And I just want to thank all of you once again, and those that with the VDOT and other areas in here, the staff. To me, it's been fun. It's been a great journey. And Dick, as you said, thanking everybody for their help and their support. And I'd like to do the same thing and just thank everyone for all you've done for me. Have a good Christmas.
Thank you all. Before we move on, I do want to acknowledge that we have some walk-on agenda items. We will consider, Mr. McFadden will help us with a consideration of a revision to the Factory Flats Performance Agreement. We'll work that in as time allows. And then under agenda item number 21, appointments, we're going to have 2 additional appointments that to be considered. One to the Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care, and actually 2 to Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care. So we will get to those under agenda item number 21. That being said, we will proceed with our citizen comment period. I have no requests for citizen comments on items that are specific to the agenda. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madam Vice Chair.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has passed. Item number 5, we will turn over to Mr. Zarilla for the approval of transfers and additional appropriations.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, and all other in attendance, and obviously wishing the 2 outgoing members all the best. It's quite a pleasure working with you guys, and just really appreciate you all the way through. So thank you very much. For the month of December, there's 1 transfer request, which is a match of Greenfield Preservation private donations. With respect to appropriation requests, there are 3 pass-through and 3 regular appropriation items. Pass-through items 1 through 3 represent federal grant funds, expenditure reimbursements, miscellaneous receipts, and donations. As for regular appropriations, items 4 through 6 relate to funding for expenditures that were not known nor taken into consideration at the time of the adoption of the FY24 budget. Especially requested that this transfer and these appropriations be approved by the board. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Zarilla?
Madam Chairman, if there's no questions, I'll move for approval.
Hearing no questions, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Mr. Zarilla, if you would proceed on with the approval of accounts payable and ratification of the short accounts payable list.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Total expenditures being requested for approval for December for the general fund, including debt service and all other funds, was a combined $1,367,464.32. After the regular accounts payable was cut off, Finance Department generated one additional check payable to Dave White Chevrolet in the amount of $56,013.50 for a 2024 Chevrolet Silverado for fire and EMS that they will just plan on them picking up today or tomorrow. There was a tight deadline on that. That then brings the total AP disbursement request to $1,423,477.82. Payable disbursements of note for the month are as follows. Under assessor, $93,150 paid to Wampler Ames services provided for the continuation of the 2024 county property reassessment. Under sheriff, $35,207 paid to Kaz Severin for 9 patrol duty laptops with a 5-year warranty. Also under sheriff, $30,455 paid to LCEO LLC for 11 units of tactical equipment. Under community organizations, $75,000 paid to Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare for FY24 annual funding. Under fire and EMS, a total of $50,962 paid to VFIS for installment payments for fire and EMS vehicle and property insurance coverage. Under CIP, Buchanan Library, $32,132 paid to Enteros Design for professional services. And finally, under Fincastle Museum Project, $31,350 paid to AECom for contracted services performed related to the grant-funded Fincastle Museum Project. Are there any questions or comments related to the accounts payable disbursements being requested for approval for the month of December?
Anyone have questions for Mr. Zarilla?
Madam Chairman, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes. Thank you, Mr. Zarilla.
Thank you.
It is 2:27. We have the public hearing scheduled at 2:30. I would like to move ahead and Mr. McFadden, would you like to come up and do our add-on, our walk-on agenda item regarding factory flats?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. We do have a walk-on item as it relates to the Industrial Revitalization Fund project in the town of Buchanan with Factory Flats LLC. As we reported earlier this year, I believe in May, we secured a grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $450,000 to assist Factory Flats LLC with the redevelopment of the former Grondike buildings in Buchanan. One of those buildings being for a commercial brewery. The Economic Development Authority had assessed the opportunity to service the loan for Factory Flats, and we found in our review and in our discussions with the developers that it was better suited for Virginia Community Capital, now called Locus, the Commonwealth Bank, if you will, to actually provide the underwriting and servicing of that loan. So we have been in negotiations with DHCD, with Locus, and with the developers to make this transition to allow Locus to service the loan. And that has all taken shape and everything has been approved by those parties. And we now have an updated performance agreement from the Department of Housing and Community Development that effectively transfers the loan from the Economic Development Authority of Botetourt County to Locus. And so that is really the purpose of this walk-on item. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. McFadden?
Madam Vice Chair. My observation of this is it has been a very positive move for all involved.
Yes.
So I would recommend that we take this item and pass.
So we have a motion to accept this.
Second.
Any discussion? I will just add thanks for your support in helping this project move forward. It is with great pleasure I drive by and see progress on this revitalization effort in the town of Buchanan. And I thank you for playing a major role, and I'm glad we can pass this on now and continue that positive momentum. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to our 2:30 public hearing, our agenda item number 7. Mr. Hinkle, if you would come down.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. Matt Hinkle, I'm your Emergency Communications Systems Manager. Very happy to be here today to bring the finalized contract that the Emergency Communications Committee has, and with help with our county attorney, back to you for review and approval. Got a short presentation just to kind of bring back to speed on some of the other presentations or meetings that we've had, just to kind of refresh.
What did you press?
I didn't press it.
Just kidding. Damn it.
When in doubt, we turn off and we turn back on. Isn't that the IT solution for everything?
It is. Control Alt Delete.
Oh, no.
Just.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you. Coming from space.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, just a brief history of how we got here. The current radio system that we've got was purchased in 1998, installed 1999, and it has been in use ever since. There was a technology refresh of certain components in 2013. However, many of the components, as you're well aware, have been in service for 24 years. It is an antiquated system that most definitely needs to be upgraded. So summary of the current system, obviously it's an antiquated technology with the analog conventional system. There are a number of commercial grade components that are not really considered mission critical grade. We have a lot of end of life components that if they were to fail, we would have trouble getting replacement parts. And like I said, mentioned the antenna systems, which really is kind of the business end that allows for coverage out in the field, is well past its service life, resulting in poor coverage. This is the representation of, and you've seen this before, the representation of the coverage that we currently have today. You'll notice that there are 5 major areas where there's coverage deficiencies, in particular up in the Iron Gate area, north of Eagle Rock, Oriskany, the Catawba Valley, Blue Ridge, and Arcadia. What we've done is we've gone back and we have negotiated a contract with the proposed vendor that was approved in the August meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And what we're going to be providing with this new system, it will be a mission critical digital system, which will allow us to have that interoperability with our neighbors on all around us. We're adding 3 additional sites to the 4 current sites, so a total of 7 sites, which should give us expanded system coverage. And as mentioned before, we also will be deploying vehicle repeaters that will aid in the expansion of the portable coverage. And the system should serve at a minimum of 15 years. There's going to be additional capacity. What I mean by capacity, right now, fire and rescue have 3 channels that they can work off of. The sheriff has 2, and then the school board has 1. This will be expanded greatly, exponentially. Actually, each of those entities will have up to 100 different channels, as it were, for their use if they need to. And we will obviously, as I mentioned, have enhanced interoperability with all of our neighbors. The sheriff's office will also be getting new dispatch center equipment. So they will be upgraded into the digital world as well. And the fire and EMS will be getting a new fire station alerting system, which will aid in cutting down those response times, which ultimately helps protect lives and property. The big question obviously was one of our bigger drivers was coverage. And as you can see from this map, I'm able to show it to you now. This is what we anticipate that the new coverage will be when the system is deployed. You'll notice to the north in that 220 corridor is much, much better than it was north of Eagle Rock. The Catawba site will help in the Catawba Valley and also along the Appalachian Trail. And also it will bleed over some into Carvin's Cove. Blue Ridge is much, much better. That is very high traffic area for us with our first responders. And that was a huge criteria for us. And that will be addressed with the Blue Ridge site. And I mentioned earlier with the Oriskany and the Arcadia, those areas, what you're seeing is those areas where, and they're on the major thoroughfares. You'll notice on the main road in Oriskany and also the 43 going through in Arcadia. That's where the digital vehicle repeaters will come in place and will provide that portable coverage in those areas. So the radio system costs that were negotiated with Motorola, the capital cost, the initial cost of the actual equipment and installation of the system will be $17,848,747. We will have years 2 and 3 of warranty, which will be an additional $109,574. So the initial contract value that we're asking you to consider today is for $17,958,322.66. As I had mentioned in a previous meeting, that's quite a bit lower than what our anticipated when our consultant had come in, and they had estimated it to be around $25 million. So I believe that doing the process that we did achieved us, the county and the taxpayers, a good bit of savings with the implementation of the system. Within the contract, there is years 4 through 10 for maintenance, which is $1.785 million. And obviously that will be billed annually. That's not it will not be paid for in the initial contract, but will be billed as we go through those years. So the total contract value through year 10 is $19,744,283. And one of the things I will mention too, from a maintenance perspective, in an initiative to try to save money for our taxpayers, we will be doing some of the maintenance in-house. And in that initiative, we anticipate that we will save an additional roughly $1 million in the first 10 years, and then rolling that out up through 15 years, upwards of $3 million that will be saved to the taxpayers of Botetourt County. So ultimately, the recommendations, county staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve the submitted contract with Motorola Solutions, Inc. to provide the public safety radio system for a total cost of $17,958,322.66. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Please.
Yes, sir.
The anticipated 15-year lifespan, what's the determining factor on that? I mean, and especially in comparison to the fact that the system that we have now has been there for 20 plus years. So that lasted 20 years. The last 5 were a little rough, obviously, but can you expand on what that 15-year lifespan means?
Yes, sir. So much of the new digital systems, they have a lot of what's called COTS equipment or commercial off-the-shelf equipment. If you're familiar with virtual machines and things of that nature, they make things much smaller, but a lot of those are basically servers. So it's a lot of software. So there's a lot of components that are actually in the system that are dependent upon the manufacturer. So in the maintenance that was given, the $1.7 million, there is an upgrade at year 6, I believe it is, where we will be getting a total technology refresh of much of the equipment. That type of technology refresh is what will keep us out of the issues that we've got in our current system. We didn't really keep that up to date over the years. We did in 2013, but that was 10 years in, and now we're 10 years past that, or 10 plus years past that. So the thought is that periodically we're going to spend money, and in the contract, there's already a technology refresh built in the first 10 years.
That was my other question. So actual equipment repair and replacement is included in the maintenance contract?
Well, in the contract, we're getting a full set of spares for the equipment. We will be actually doing the maintenance ourselves. So if something breaks, we'll have the equipment on hand. We will be able to obviously send it off and get it fixed and things of that nature. But yeah, that's part of the contract.
Is there any particular component that's vulnerable to becoming outdated?
Well, that really depends on the life cycle of the manufacturer, really. One of the things we did do is when we put the specifications together for the RFP, we made sure that they could not, either vendor that did respond, that they proposed equipment that is not near end of life. Typically, manufacturers for infrastructure, which is mostly what we're speaking of now, the tower sites in the back end, even when they announce end of life, the equipment will be supported for up to 7 years. So they'll give you 7 years notice to say, hey, this piece of equipment is going to go end of life. So it gives you plenty of time to plan for if something like that were going to happen. But we took careful consideration on the equipment that was proposed to make sure that it was not end of life, and that we're not going to get that surprise next year kind of thing.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Other questions?
I would just, not particular questions, but maybe one to remind us about our neighbors and the type of technology they have, just so everybody can kind of hear that again. And maybe that resonates to why it's so important to what we're looking at doing today. In addition to the fact that it modernizes our communication system, our first responders will be in much better shape to do their jobs safely and quickly. But just remind us about our neighbors and how all that dynamic is.
Yes, sir. So the technology that we're going to is an industry standard. It's nationwide, well, worldwide. It's deployed all over the world. It's called P25. That's the name of the standard. The neighbors, so Rockbridge and Allegheny, Bedford, Roanoke City, Roanoke County, Salem, Benton, Franklin County, and soon to come on board, Craig, are all on that P25 standard. We're the only one that's left. Well, Craig is, but they're well on their way. We're the only ones left that are on an analog platform. So it is very, very critical. And that P25 standard is no matter the manufacturer of the equipment, you'll be able to talk across those with that common platform. It's called a common air interface. So yes, it's absolutely critical that we go to the P25 standard. In addition to that, we've taken careful consideration in the equipment that we bought because some of our neighbors are not using the same frequencies as others. We have multi-band radios in there to be able to accommodate that, to make sure that we have that interoperability with our neighbors to the north, east, and south.
Yeah. So, that's a big number, right? Almost $18 million, it gets your attention. I think it's very important for us to realize why that is needed to be spent. And also recognize that number was much bigger, as you mentioned, at the beginning of this. So some almost $7 million trimmed out of, the beginning of this whole conversation. So thank you and everyone on the list there that has been working as part of that committee to pull this all together. We appreciate all that work, and it realized, some significant reduction in that, what is still a big number. So Thanks.
Yes, sir, it is. But I tell you, it's long overdue for our community to have this technology, and also for our first responders to have the lifeline and that coverage. That is huge, and to be able to communicate with neighboring jurisdictions and whatnot. It is a huge leap forward, but it is one that I truly feel is very much needed. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the other members of the Emergency Communications Committee and all their hard work and helping us. And I want to thank you members of the board as well for your support in this, very large but very much needed project.
And I would like to echo the thanks for the hard work. One thing I would like to bring up before we open the public hearing, let's also review the process that led us to this vendor. If you could, I know you talked about this, I think it was in August, but our minds might be rusty. And just to remind everybody that this was a process that we went through to select this vendor, if you could refresh that.
Yes, ma'am. So several years ago, the county hired Morcom International, was our third-party consultant. They did an analysis of our system to determine the deficiencies and also help us plan for which direction that we wanted to go. They also helped write a request for proposal that was issued earlier this year. Those proposals were received in April. We reviewed those proposals for, several months. But obviously, in a project this size, you can imagine that they were quite large. One I think was somewhere around 1,800 pages. But it was in consultation with our consultant, Morcom, and all of the members of the Emergency Communications Committee. We felt that Motorola Solutions in their proposal was the right fit for Botetourt County and provided the best solution for us. And then we did come in August to present our findings. And now we've spent the last several months negotiating that contract. And I mean, as your staff lead on this particular project, I'm very comfortable and confident that is a very good number, very competitive number.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the board or questions? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this matter? Ms. Best, did you have anyone?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the public hearing is actually, I believe, for the budget amendment
On
that
the
Mr.
amendment.
Cirillo is going to introduce.
So.
Oh, it's not.
We need approval.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so we can go ahead with this. Sorry,
No,
my
that's no
bad.
problem.
no, our fault.
Close that public hearing that was not opened. So we have before us a proposal to approve the purchase contract with Motorola Solutions.
So moved.
Second.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we will have a public hearing for the amendment to the FY 23-24 county budget relating to the public safety radio replacement project. That public hearing is open. Anyone to speak on this matter? Ms. Bess? Still no one? We'll close the public hearing. And I need a motion to, right? Mr. Lockaby. Mr. Lockaby, do I need a motion now to approve the purchase?
We need to approve the budget amendment, I believe.
The
Mr.
amendment, yes.
Yeah.
So item number 8. Okay. Do I have a motion,
Motion to approve, Madam Vice Chair.
the amendment to the FY 23 amendment, budget? We have a motion and
Madam Vice Chair, I have some items to share with the board before the
okay,
actual public hearing
okay,
in terms of background information. Thank you. The total proposed budget amendment to the FY 24 budget exceeds 1% of the original FY 24 budget. Therefore, according to the state of Virginia, public hearing must be held on this matter. This public hearing was duly advertised in the Fincastle Herald on December 6th. This request for an FY 24 budget amendment is in conjunction with the just enacted approval of the purchase contract between Botetourt County and Motorola Solutions and the providing of the public safety radio system. The requested budget amendment is for projected expenditures that will be incurred in FY 24 for contract execution and equipment that would be delivered during FY 24. The amount of FY 24 anticipated spending for this purchase contract is $10,080,276.48. In terms of funding sources, $600,000 of the total will be applied from the Capital Projects Fund, which is where the activity for this contract will be posted. This leaves a balance of $9,480,276.48 that will be transferred from the county's undesignated general fund balance. It should be noted that a November resolution passed by the County Board of Supervisors will allow the county to reimburse itself for expenses related to this project as part of the permanent financing that is planned to be in place at a later point in 2024. With that, the recommendations are: number one, hold a public hearing on the $10,080,276.48 amendment to the 2023-2024 Botetourt County budget. And then number two, close the public hearing and approve a transfer in the amount of $9,480,276.48 from the Botetourt County undesignated fund balance, Fund 100, to the Capital Projects Fund, Fund 302. Then finally, approve an amendment to the 2023-2024 county budget in the amount of $10,080,276.48 to Capital Projects Fund, the 302 radio system replacement project expenditures. Are there any questions?
No, sir. So do we have
Thank
to go
you.
back to it again?
So I guess we need to open a budget hearing again, specifically on the $10,080,276.48 to amendment to the budget. So that public hearing is open. Would anyone like to speak on this matter? Hearing no one, I will close that public hearing. I need a motion to approve a transfer in the amount of $9,480,276.48 from the Botetourt County undesignated fund balance, Fund 100, to the Capital Projects Fund, that is Fund 302, and approve an amendment to the 2023-24 county budget in the amount of $10,080,276.48 to the Capital Projects Fund, that is Fund 302, radio system replacement expenditures, account number 302-500-2035.
That's a single motion you're seeking for that.
Yes. I think. We have two things happening. We're transferring and then we are amending
Is
the
that okay?
budget.
Are we good?
Do you want to do both those in one motion?
I think we can. You
Yeah.
can.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve both of them then.
So we are approving the transfer and amending the budget. We have a motion.
And a second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to item number 9, we have a presentation by Mr. Corbin Stone of the fiscal year 22-23 Botetourt County audit. Welcome.
Madam Vice Chair, board members, thanks. First off, thanks for having me and Merry Christmas. Because I heard all that with the public safety project. You know, I think the timing of financing, if you had to finance it right now, might not be that great. What you're able to do is put that off. Hopefully rates go down a little bit, then you can finance it at a lower rate, which is, you're fortunate to be in a position to do that. So that's just what I was thinking about as I heard that. Overall, the audit went very well. The audit report itself is 174 pages long. You all have a copy of it in front of you. We're not going to go through that document. But to save a little time, I do have a handout that will just go over a few key points from the audit. You did receive what we call an unqualified opinion, which means we believe the financial statements are materially correct. And on page 1, which I have on the screen now, and I'm sure the numbers are so small they can't see them in the back. But on page 1, you can see that your general fund balance at the end of 23 stood at $70,910,000. Of that, approximately $28 million was leftover bond proceeds that just haven't been spent yet. The unassigned and assigned fund balance, and what I mean by assigned, it's mean you might have set some money aside for some specific purpose, but you can always unassign that money if you need to. The unassigned and assigned fund balance stood at $40,112,793, and that's the row highlighted there in yellow. More of a ramp up in recent years due to ARPA and COVID funds that really kind of supplemented you. Of course, we're going to have some inflation, or we already have some inflation. So I wouldn't necessarily expect fund balance to remain quite that high going forward. Long-term obligations for both the county and the school board stood at $118 million. On a per capita basis, that's about $3,500, just over $3,500, compared to the newest or most recent state estimates we have, which go back to 2021. The state estimate for counties, or the state per capita debt for counties, was $6,545. So you're below that per capita amount. Even though you just issued 30-some million a few years ago, back in 22, you're still below the state average. Second page, and I'll scroll to that. I'm just graphing out some of this information. I'm comparing the unassigned and assigned fund balance on this second page, page 2, to long-term debt obligations. And that's going to include post-employment benefits, accrued leave that's due to employees because they've earned leave over tenure here at the county. And you can see, your debt's been going up, but your fund balance has been going up as well. Your unassigned fund balance has been going up as well. And you can almost pick out when you've issued debt, you see the bars go up, then they start coming back down, they go up, they start coming back down. So you can kind of see what's going on there. But the relationship of these two items is the most important thing to look at. Net position, I should have gone over this. Unrestricted net position is effectively, if we were to sell the county tomorrow, what would we expect to get? And that's after you pay off all your obligations, you sell all your assets. Theoretically, we get book value for them. The county is worth about just under $35 million. So in other words, fund balance is one number, and net position is kind of a longer term estimate of the county's value. Fund balance just takes into account your cash, your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, and the liability side. It's a short-term perspective. Net position looks at everything, the assets you own, vehicles and whatnot. And also we reduce that number for any debt outstanding. So both these numbers, fund balance and unrestricted net position, are strong. The next page is page 4. Your major revenue sources, you can see at the top there, general property taxes are by far the largest revenue source. The key, and of course that's real estate, personal property, machinery, and tools. The key to point out here is you've had a pretty good run with other local taxes, which is that red line kind of closer to the bottom. And you can see the revenue from the Commonwealth has also spiked up here just in 2023. Those other local taxes have really been strong, particularly in the past year. Mills tax, sales tax really jumped up for the county. The spike up you see in federal aid, of course, that's CARES money, ARPA money that you received. And it still was elevated in 22. It's again elevated in 23 over the historical numbers. And we'll see another graph in a second that'll kind of give you an idea of what we expect to happen with that money. But I do expect your federal aid to drop off. Maybe after 24, you'll still get some additional federal aid in 24, but 25, 26, we expect that to drop down a little bit lower. I added one line to this graph, and it's at the very bottom, and you can see it spikes up. It's kind of an orange color with an X mark for each year. Interest income finally made it onto the graph of major revenue sources. And that actually represented about 4% of your revenue for 23. So not an insignificant amount. The next page, I'm just showing you where you're spending your money. The biggest expense, education. The contribution you guys make to the school board is going to be your biggest expense. Public safety is number 2. And there are a lot of other things down at the bottom. The line that goes up and down, and it's kind of seems to be random, community development. So if you have a business that comes in and you receive money, governor's opportunity funds or something of that nature that flow through the county, you get a spike up and it goes back down, spike up, goes back down. So really, it's largely going to be funding of the EDA and any companies that you're helping out. Next page. I'm just showing you the makeup of your revenue sources. So you get an idea, and by and large, it's almost all property taxes, over 50%, well over 50%. Interest income, you can see over here, is 4.23 now. And we're going to see back in 2014 where it was. Federal aid is 4.18%, and then state aid's about 15.5% of your overall revenue for the general fund. And I always compare this to 10 years prior, just to see where you stood. You can see interest income was non-existent 10 years ago. Federal aid was 2% of your overall budget, and state aid was 18% of your, or almost 19% of your overall budget. So on page 7, you see the data from 2014, and of course, page 6 is going to be from 2023, just so you see how that's changing over time. We do expect local dollars, once we get past all this ARPA and COVID money, local dollars to make up a larger percentage of your budget again going forward. Tax assessments on page 8. And I know you're going through a reassessment right now, so we would expect that real estate number, those assessed values to go up. I'll let you know that the real estate is shown at 1/10 of its actual value. Otherwise, this graph wouldn't. We just have a lot of lines at the bottom. The one you see really growing there, personal property. If you've been in the car market or used car market in the past couple of years, you've known that has really gone through the roof. There are signs that that's cooling down, so I would not expect it to stay up. I would actually hope that it does come down a little bit, but it's really taken off since 2021. And since the school board is really one of the largest, the largest amount of your money goes to the school board, more than any other department or function. So I put their information up as well. And what we can see here is that state aid really took off between 22 and 23. They get additional sales tax, basic aid, really shot up. The local contribution, local government contribution is that second line. You can see it more or less normalized for 23. If we had just projected it out from 21, we probably would have wound, or 20, we would have wound up here in 23. One thing to really take a look at is this federal aid down here. We've had a big ramp up in federal aid, 21, 22, 23. It's starting to come down. When we had this after the Great Recession, federal aid took probably 10 years to get back to pre-2008 levels at the school board. So, they tend to throw a lot of money out there, and then it's a long time before you get back to what you were getting just a few years before the crisis. So just keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, what that means is hopefully the state line keeps going up. But at the end of the day, it pushes money back to the state and to the local government, or pushes, the need for financing back to the state and local government. The next couple of pages are just our management comments for the year, recommendations. The one in here, I'll just go over one, was just to make sure that we got reimbursement requests in on a timely basis. It almost didn't matter 5 years ago, 3 years ago, when interest rates are so low. But if we can get reimbursement requests back into the Treasury and get that money invested, even if it's in a money market, it really will make a difference for the county. So that's the one thing really that all departments everywhere we audit, we want them to start taking a look at making sure reimbursement requests are filed. You get your money back. Don't wait 6 months or 9 months. Get it back and get it invested. And I won't go over all of those, just really some housekeeping items. Our areas for improvement, but I want to make sure the board's aware of them. On page 12, we have what I call our attestation report for VRS. Years ago, they found some cases where people were in the VRS system, not here, but they found people in the VRS system that weren't working for state or local government. And a state or local government was making a contribution on behalf of these people that left years ago, and vice versa, that folks started for a state or local government and they weren't put into the system when they started. So they weren't getting a contribution for those folks. What we do is we go through and make sure new hires are put in the system. We make sure that the hires that are the people that left are taken out of the system as far as Botetourt County is concerned. We didn't have any issues. We didn't find any issues. We do that on a test basis, so we don't look at all of them, but we didn't have any issues. And in fact, you qualify for rotational testing, so we don't have to test everything every year because we haven't had any issues here. And then finally, we have what we call our communication to those charged with governance. When you put together a 174-page financial report, like your staff certainly helped do, the school board helped do, it's a lot of information. There are a lot of estimates in there. So one thing we talk about here is that there are estimates in relation to your allowance for doubtful accounts. In other words, taxes that are outstanding, we have to estimate what we think you won't be able to collect. Your estimate of depreciable lives on assets, buildings, vehicles, and that sort of thing. Your pension liabilities, that is an estimate. We really don't know how long people are going to stay in the VRS system once they retire. And ultimately, you're going to be responsible for their full retirement. So it tells you about a lot of the estimates. If we had any problems in the audit, we would report those to you here. We did not. So you get the boilerplate letter, which can't be said for everyone, but you get the boilerplate letter. Like I said, the audit went very well. Beyond that, we do include any recommended adjusting entries that we had for the year as we went through the audit. Really, the county did not have that many. The school board didn't have that many either. So we're pretty pleased with the books that were provided to us. And finally, the last few pages, and we're finally getting a break, new accounting standards. So page 23 and 24, maybe even 25. We have some newer accounting standards that are coming out that just to make you aware of them. I don't think they're going to have a significant impact on the county going forward. So I think these are more benign than the ones we've had to implement the last few years. And I'm thankful because the ones we had to implement the last few years were pretty tough. So, and the county's probably thankful as well. But overall, we're very pleased with how the books turned out this year. Very pleased with your numbers. I like where you are. I can't predict the future, but I certainly like where you are. And I think you've put yourself in a good position that financing this public safety project, you can use your money until interest rates are favorable. And that's a great place to be in. So, and I'll stop there and answer any questions you might have.
Several questions. yeah.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Stone. Thank you.
I have
Sure.
several questions, yeah.
Okay.
One of them is my annual question. I never can remember the answer. The machinery and tools, I don't see a consistent representation of it here from one graph to another. Is it under general property?
Oh,
tax?
machinery, you probably mean public safety. I'm not public safety, but the Public Service Corporation assessments. Machinery and tools is fairly consistent on page 8.
Is it considered local tax?
It is local tax.
But it isn't broken out individually though. that I'm seeing.
It's
Not here. It's going to be the taxes that the businesses are paying on their machinery and tools. The one thing that the one graph on page 8, I'll go back to that real quick. That is all over the place. And as auditors, we don't know why this is. This is just kind of handed to us. On page 8, that blue line, which is the Public Service Corporation, that's going to be the power company, gas company. If you have a railroad going through the county, they're assessed by the state. And I really, so if they have a big project, you'll see a spike, and then you'll see drop off in 23. And I don't know why that is for the county. Those assessments don't come from the commissioner, so we really don't know how they arrive at those.
Mr. Stone.
Hmm.
Mr. Stone, I can provide some
Okay.
assistance on that. The reason for the reduction is that the method that they value the property that's reported to them, it's not on an assessed value basis at this point in time. It's going to be as part of the reassessment. So that should pick up in future years. But we had to take a hit in FY23 and possibly in FY24. And then that line's gonna head north once the reassessment value comes in.
That's probably machinery and tools.
The assessment.
We're talking about, I thought you were talking about Public Service Corporation.
Public Service Corporation.
Yeah, yeah.
So through the state.
Part of that is
Okay.
real estate.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Assessed
Right.
a certain percentage below market value, so they get the benefit of that.
Got it.
And Corbin, there's the traditional metric, overall metric, that debt per capita. And that's been kind of replaced with another more meaningful one, I think.
Oh, well.
Tony would probably know.
Yeah, what we used to show is actual true debt per capita, which are just outstanding bonds compared to your population. What's happened is at the state level, they've included post-employment benefits in that number. They've included pension liabilities. So the new metrics is everything you owe, whether it's a pension or post-employment benefit. And we're comparing your number. We're comparing the same number here to the state average for counties. But it is a better representation of what you really owe, particularly when you consider if you've underfunded pensions, then that's a true liability. It's not like a debt service payment that you're going to make to a bondholder, but it's a true liability you're going to finance through higher retirement contributions over an extended period of time. So it's a better number, really.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And I will tell you that my contact information is on the front page of the handout. If you do have any questions later on, don't hesitate to call me. I know everyone's going to read the 174 page, but I stand ready to answer any question.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
We will now move on to agenda item 10. VDOT. Welcome, Mr. Blevins.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me again this month. As far as our monthly agenda, the resurfacing contracts are done this year. We can tell by the snow, or at least the snow that's coming. We didn't have any traffic engineering work orders for the month to respond to. There are several land development projects on here. I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of them, but most of them we're just waiting on resubmittals. We had 8 permits issued in the last month, mostly for utilities, a couple of private entrances. No residency projects underway at this time. Again, we're kind of dialing back and starting to work on our winter preparedness. As far as planned routine maintenance, it's again pretty typical for the time of year. We've had a dry fall, so we've been doing some dust control, even a little bit of mowing and trimming some areas. Grading some gravel roads, trying to get them ready for winter in the Buchanan area. Patching over some pipes that we'd replaced there near the end of the fall. Pipe replacements, they said ditching and shoulder work that we've been trying to do with some additional funds that the CTB gave us. And again, it's pretty typical for most of our areas, some of them doing a little bit more than others. One thing that I did neglect to provide you guys as an update last month, I apologize for that. It kind of fell off my radar, but I did want to provide a brief update of the metrics that we received from the citizen information meetings for the Craig Botetourt Trail. So of those, of the traditional surveys that we received, those are comments submitted via email, given to the court reporter at the CIM, or given by hand at the CIM and mailed in. We had 238 individuals submitted those comments by that method. 147 of those, or 62%, support is presented. So it's very positive. 16 or 17 or 7% support with modification. So still some support there, which is still good. 69 or 29% of those opposed, and 6 were 3% of all we're kind of unable to determine exactly what they wanted. As for the online surveys, we received a total of 1,405. For those that received those, 1,150 or 82% of those supported the project as presented. 53 or 4% supported with modification, and 202 or 14% opposed. We did not repeat those. If somebody submitted multiple times with one email address, then they were not like double counted. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has for any parts of the agenda or anything else.
Any questions for Mr. Blevins? Any comments?
Nothing on my end this time.
You still have our number, Billy.
Got you.
Getting some feedback about the new stoplight.
Yes, I have too.
So, and I've seen you respond to some emails, and thank you for that. There's discussions around about rumble strips, and one or two comments about reducing the speed, maybe somewhere near Amsterdam, up in that area before you get to the light, in the southbound lane particularly. Maybe I know VDOT would consider those types of things, whether or not you would act or feel it's appropriate, but certainly those types of things I think the citizens are wanting thought about. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd say you and I exchanged emails. Can you address some of those? It was the same thing, Doctor, the same issue. And I was interested in the actual design criteria that was used in terms of queuing and stacking distance and all that, and how the actual conditions relate to VDOT criteria. Are we marginal? Are we right on it? Are we,
We're slightly above what we would want, for at least as far as the flashing, prepare to stop ahead when flashing signs, and they are attached to the signal controller. They're called cab beacons, controller actuated beacons. So like I'd mentioned, I think in one of the emails I sent back to some folks yesterday or maybe this weekend, the signal at Catawba and 220 has a very similar setup. It's got the, be prepared to stop when flashing signs. They're about 600 feet or so, and that's measured off of Google. That's not me measuring in the field with a wheel or anything. But that is because that there's several entrances there, and we can't block sight distance for the entrances, and we can't put them like in somebody's entrance, of course. For the signal at Fieldstone, it's closer to about 500 to 520 feet. So it's a little less, but the standard is more in the range of 460 to 480. We had, and there was in the approved plan, I think it actually was 480. And whenever they were installing in the field, they actually moved it further. But then we have to think about the fact if you wanted to alert people sooner, that means you have to move it further north, right? The further you get away, the more you risk the fact of drivers forgetting the fact of what they just saw, which happens pretty often, phones and distractions and all. And then the further back you go, you could end up in the middle of the curve or fully around the curve. So we couldn't put those signs in the middle of a curve. So we had to pick that straight, and that straight does give some, and that distance does give some for the sight distance to the heads, to the signal heads, but also for what the anticipated queues would be. We don't anticipate those to be very high because as we had talked about before, the operations of that signal is just two phases. It works similarly to the interchange, the newer interchange. It's been there for a while now at Valley View Mall, to where it basically just takes turns. It's an on-off. So it's not like a signal like at Route 11 and 220 where it's a 4-phase signal and it's about 3 minutes long. You've got about 3 to 4 minutes of cycle time. Everybody says they sit there for 6 minutes, 6 or 10 minutes, but they really don't. If you're the next one in line, you're going to pop back through in about 3 to 4 minutes max. And most of them are less than that. So it is taken into account. That's what we think about. And during the design here, we knew that speed could be an issue. So the consultant that worked for Fralin prepared a safety and operations study to extend the 45 back to where it is now. So it was moved with the project. That includes the 45-mile-per-hour head signs and the signs, and we actually moved the signs, but they prepared the study that we accepted and accepted by what we call resolution. It's not the same as what you guys do, but it actually makes it official and an actual legal posted speed.
When you use Catawba Road as an analog to this, I mean, the horizontal alignment's significantly different, isn't it?
It is. But the idea for those signs is they are put in specifically for the fact that you can't see those signal heads. You can't see them as you're approaching it. It's not just about the cues, not because we don't put those in for every signal. You won't see those flash, prepare to stop when flashing signs at every signal. If you can see it on approach and you've got more than your what we call your stopping sight distance. I don't remember all of them. I remember the one for 55, it's about 495 feet, but those go down and speed goes down. So you're right. It's not a perfect analog, just the closest one I could find, and something that you drive through daily, very close to here.
What is your response? We've heard from some citizens the idea of rumble strips. Can you comment on that and why it would not work at this intersection?
Well, the deal is that I'm not saying it wouldn't work. It's rare for us to put rumble strips on approach to a signal. We usually do them in places where you're wanting to warn them where they're coming to an area where it's not signalized. The only place that I can think of in our district, I can't think of any in my area, is in Giles County, headed into Pembroke. As you're headed westbound on 460, there's a set of the rumble strips coming through because there's a fairly busy intersection that goes to what they call the falls. And so we do have those, and the only thing controlling that intersection is a couple of flashing lights. There's no signal there. So it's number one, warning folks that you're coming into a busier area, and number two, letting them know that it's possible that you could see some turning traffic because it's 2 lanes in each direction with no median. It's not the type of roadway we designed today, but that's what they have. Again, like I said, I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but we feel that the signal today has been appropriately designed, and we have been monitoring it. I know that just to continue on with your question, I know that one of the citizens were very concerned about the fact that it's pulling red on 220, and it's supposed to stay green. I mentioned something in a response today that we did have the developer's contractor look at it yesterday. They did make some adjustments. Our signal crew went out today with them, made some additional adjustments. They looked at the cameras, they looked at the placement of the cameras. Some of them weren't optimal yet, but some of those things have to be placed, as we go, and while it's in operation. But I came through there today, it was green, and we felt like that we can, and sometimes the sun or a shadow can throw those cameras off. They're very, very good technology, but there are some things that can throw them off. The wind that we've had the last few days can make it think there's something moving because it doesn't see the car, it just sees the movement. So that's how it detects whether you're there or not. So if you set it a signal long enough and let it go through its cycle, it'll forget you're there completely, unless you move.
So I think that the concern is obviously more in the southbound
Yeah.
side than the north. I'm not going to dwell on this forever, but the rumble strip idea, another example closer than Giles that I can think of a rumble strip being placed is in Natural Bridge. At Natural Bridge, if you're traveling north, it's the first Natural Bridge exit on Route 11. There's limited sight distance when you're traveling southbound, and they placed rumble strips across to alert travelers of an upcoming intersection before you can even see it. So I think of that as an example of where you can put something like that So is that completely off the table, or is that just not something that you would consider?
It's not off the table. But again, I want to remind everyone, this was developer driven. VDOT did not install the signal. We didn't design it. We didn't approve the development. We just deal with the consequences of the approval. So again, they're developers, the developer's engineer designed this. We've approved it and accepted it the way it is. And sometimes we have to look and see how it's going to operate for a period of time. I'm not saying things won't change, but at least right now, unless someone wanted to reach out to the developer and ask them if they'd be willing to do it, and ask us if we'd be willing to review it as a plan change and accept it, possibly. But at least right now, none of this was funded by VDOT. We didn't actually install it. So it's not even our signal until 30 days are up and it's had full operation. We have been assisting them with making sure it's right, because it behooves us to make sure that the signal operates appropriately. But if the cabinet controller were to die tomorrow, it would be their responsibility to replace it. But like I said, at least for right now, we feel it's appropriately designed, and it is still technically under permit, and the signal itself and the operations are owned by the developer for 30 days.
Say that again, the 30 days?
Yeah, it has to operate for a period of 30 days with no major failures. And we'll take it over after that. But right now, if anything happens, anything changes, like I said, the controller of the signal fails, it would be up to the developer and their contractor to replace it.
If it falls out of compliance with VDOT standards, really is what you mean, right? By fails?
Only if it fails. If there's something like I don't know what you mean by it falls out of our compliance with standards, but as long as it's operating, and like what's happened the last couple of days with false calls, that happens with every signal, even if we install it. So that's just kind of a burn-in period, where while we don't usually start a signal on a Monday or a Friday, because you want to be out there to see it operate for at least a day or two. So that's why this one was turned on full operation at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. So we had that full day on Thursday and then most of the day on Friday to look at tweaks. I just don't think they realized that there were some false calls until we got some responses over the weekend.
And did you say that you adjusted, or VDOT did, or the developer, whomever, adjusted the limits of the speed postings earlier on?
Yes, that was done before it was even turned on. So 45 is extended back before the signal, couple hundred feet there. It's back further than where those flashing signs are. I don't recall the name of the road. I keep forgetting it, but there's a public road to the right there as you're headed south, that around where the speed changes. So it's already 45. That was something that we did not do when the Orchard Marketplace signal was turned on back in 2008 or 9. I was here then, so I get to see these things continue and grow and over again. But we extended that one later after the signal was activated.
Any other questions, comments? Any other concerns from your areas?
No,
Blue Ridge?
no.
We're good.
Newcastle, good?
Yep.
Amsterdam?
Good.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 11. If Mr. David Williams could come down as president of the Botetourt County Chamber of Commerce and give us an update, please.
Good afternoon. I'm David Williams. I'm president of the Botetourt Chamber. Madam Chairperson and board members, thank you and Gary, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come down and say hello and let you know that the chamber is alive and well and we're moving forward. We had a wonderful event today. We had the open house, or the ribbon cutting for the new Dairy Queen, and I think there were close to 100 people there. It was pretty amazing. And I met the Paytals. They're a nice couple, and 50 some employees. So that's a very good thing. We have the Tinsel Trail up and running right now in Fincastle. That's another very successful event for us, and we're very happy with that.
we're continuing working on recruiting members and retaining members and moving forward. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you.
Questions? Dave? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Our next agenda item is number 12, a public hearing. Consideration of an amendment to the FY 2023-24 Botetourt County budget relating to receipt of school state funds. Mr. Zarella.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. As was previously done with the prior public hearing, till the reappropriation request, the amount that we are amending the FY 24 budget exceeds 1% of the original FY 24 budget, and therefore, according to state code, public hearing must be held. Public hearing was duly advertised in the Herald on December 6th. As per December 1st letter received from Brandon Lee, School Director of Finance, based upon a late approval of the FY 24 state budget, the school division will be receiving $1,817,488 of additional state funding. The largest portion of this funding is to be expended and assigned to the All In Virginia initiative, which amounts to $1,185,245 and has a 3-year spending window. The balance of the state funds is $632,245 and will be appropriated to the school operating fund. Therefore, staff recommendations are as follows. Number 1, hold a public hearing on the $1,817,488 proposed amendment to the Botetourt County budget, close the public hearing, and approve the proposed amendment to the 2023-224 Botetourt County budget as follows: an appropriation in the amount of $632,245 to the school operating fund, Fund 220, and an appropriation in the amount of $1,185,245 to school funds, school accounts payable, Fund 220, which is to be tracked using the school's self-sustaining account. Are there any questions? Respectfully.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Zarella? Okay, I'm going to open a public hearing on the $1,817,488 proposed amendment to the 23-24 Botetourt County budget. Anyone here to speak on this matter? Ms. Best, no one? We will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion for an appropriation in the amount of $632,245 to School Operating Fund 220 and an appropriation in the amount of $1,185,245 to the school fund, school accounts payable 220-500-2001?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Or is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Item number 13, I would like to invite our Commonwealth Attorney, John Alexander, down to the podium, please, to give us an update on the Botetourt Craig Drug Treatment Court Program and the opioid abatement program.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the board. Thank you all for having me here. I'm here to bring you all good news. So we have, as you know, and we've talked about this before, we have now in Botetourt, the Botetourt Craig Drug Treatment Court Program. That program takes nonviolent drug motivated and drug offenders and takes them off the incarceration track and puts them on a treatment track. It's a very intensive probation style. Well, it's a very intensive probation for from 1 to 2 years. Folks get into this program and they are required to have frequent contacts 5 times a week during the first phase with either a treatment professional or a probation officer. We've had incredible support from Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care. In fact, if it weren't for Blue Ridge, we wouldn't have gotten the program off the ground. Letitia Hawkins Beatty of Blue Ridge actually put in or worked the application and got us approved. They have since given us a drug court coordinator named Lee Lively, who is doing an outstanding job. She's just fantastic. And we have an adult probation officer provided by District 40, Brianna Pavanis, who is also doing a fantastic job. So we've gotten buy-in from those different organizations, which means that this program is not costing any additional funds to anyone. And in fact, it's saving funds for the county and for the state. Judge Branscombe, of course, has been a huge supporter and runs the program. And so what we have at this point is 11 current participants. We have 6 who are in the early stages now, some of whom frankly have been in the early stages for a while because that's the way the program works. And 3 of our participants are 3/4 of the way through the program. We have 2 participants who are verging toward the end of the program, and those folks we hope will be graduating at a ceremony in June. We have 1 graduate so far. Young man was part of our first class. He came into the program with a background of petty crime motivated by drugs. He was in a position where he was going to have to serve some penitentiary time based on his sentencing guidelines. We diverted him into this drug treatment program, and he had some trouble at first, but the program is designed to follow that along, to impose sanctions along the way, and to ramp up where you need to, the treatment and the supervision. That young man has since completed his degree in a very difficult field of endeavor. He's working full-time at a very high-paying job. He is now a father to his 5-year-old son, where he was, to a great extent absent prior. One of his family members encountered one of my office staff at a function and said to her that this program had saved this young man's life. And I say that to you because the board has been incredibly supportive of us for this program, and I appreciate that. And so has Mr. LaRue's office. I want to remind everybody, and I'm sure you all know this is not an easy program. There are a number of people who we offer it to who don't want to do it because it's much harder than standard probation. But people with a long-term view who see that they're in a cycle that's going to keep them down forever unless they get out of it, realize that doing the hard thing now will help them to have success later. We have one young lady who has had a significant difficulty getting through the program. And she has been a couple of times at a stage where it would have been easier for her, frankly, just to quit, get sentenced and be done with it. But she has stuck with it because she understands by watching others in the program and by what we keep telling her that if she sticks with it, she's going to have a better chance at success and a better chance to really be reunited with her children in the long run. So it is working. And I appreciate your support very much. I will point out that, again, it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. It's been completely funded so far by a grant that Blue Ridge got. And since then, Blue Ridge has provided that drug court coordinator person out of their funds, and District 40 has given us the probation officer. So it hasn't cost the citizens anything. And in fact, the state drug court committee estimates that every participant saves the citizens close to $20,000 over incarceration or standard probation. So it is saving the citizens money. It's saving people's lives, and it's also reuniting families and keeping social services from having to visit their homes. There's just a huge spider web of effects, of positive effects that come from this program. So that having been said, we're continuing to try to grow and change the program. And as part of that, we have applied for, through Mr. LaRue's office, and received a grant from the Opioid Abatement Authority, a $45,000 grant, which will be for a strategic planning activity, which will help the county decide where we can best use additional opioid abatement authority grant funds to address the opioid crisis in Botetourt. And that part of that will be to enhance the drug court program and expand it. So I'm a law and order guy. I prosecute criminals, and I have no problem demanding sentences and doing what needs to be done. The fewer drug offenders we have in penitentiaries, the more room we have to put the truly violent, bad people in penitentiaries. So every drug offender that we can get on this track means less pressure for the release of people who really need to be incarcerated. The Opioid Abatement Authority funds, we hope, will be substantial once we really have a clear vision how to spend them. We'll make that application and we hope to be able to really address this issue in Botetourt, which is significant. We have court probation reporting once every other month. At our last meeting, we released 2 probationers because they had both died of overdoses. And that happens every single time we have that court reporting docket, sometimes more than 2. We have lost many probationers to overdoses over the last several years. And this grant will help us address that. So just wanted to report that good news to you all.
Thank you.
And thanks for letting me come. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
That is good news indeed. Thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments?
Good news. I'll say that, yeah.
Yeah, I would just ask, do you see the drug-related offenses increasing with time, John, or has it leveled off, or what would you say to that?
I would say that not necessarily the number of offenses, the substances have changed dramatically. We went from, the substances sort of ebb and flow. The real crisis right now is that fentanyl is in everything. We have people who think they're using methamphetamine and they have fentanyl in it. Same thing with cocaine. And so people come in and people are dying because they don't know that they're getting fentanyl in what they think is something else.
Yeah. Well, I would just say thank you for all your work on this, your guidance and helping getting this program started. It's obvious that it's a win-win. And I thank you for the good news in this holiday season.
Yes.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having me.
Clinton, anything?
Good program. I echo Dr. Bailey's words. Thank you for your efforts on it. Thank you for the success.
What's the capacity of this program? Do we have a cap that we're worried about, or can you really deal with everybody you need to deal with and, have access to?
The idea of the original plan was to get to about where we are now and then stay there for about a year and then continue to ramp up. The Opioid Abatement Authority funds will help us to do that. What we really need in the Commonwealth is more inpatient treatment. Everybody knows we are just lacking inpatient treatment. But Blue Ridge, that's been expanded some in the last few years, and Blue Ridge has been very effective at getting our folks who need it into inpatient, sometimes as far away as the Hampton Roads area, but they get them in. And so that's what we've really needed. And if I think we can expand as needed is the short answer to your question.
Wonderful. That's good news too.
Yes,
Thank you so much for your work in this area
Thank
and
you.
other areas, all the things.
Thank
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Item 14, if Mandy Adkins could come down, please, for the next 2 agenda items. We will first consider an update to the youth athletics eligibility policy.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. It's great to be with you today. I would like to ask for your consideration for an update to the Parks and Recreation Youth Athletics Eligibility Policy. As many of you know, and those of you who have had children come up through the recreation programming, when you register your child for a sport, you indicate their age, and they are then put into an athletic league based on their date of birth. Currently, the way that we do that is parents input their child's date of birth in our registration software. And so the department staff has identified the need to verify those ages with birth certificates. And so we have updated the athletics eligibility policy to add the following language. Athletes are required to provide a birth certificate verifying their registration age once in their athletic career. The Parks and Recreation Department will retain a copy of the birth certificate for the duration of the athlete's career, or at least until the athlete has not participated in any Parks and Recreation programming for 3 years. If a birth certificate is not available, we will consider alternative age verification. So participants will only have to show their birth certificate to our team once. We will make a copy and then we'll put their verified date of birth in our registration software. We're still working on a few of the implementation details with our technology services department, but our goal is to implement this before the spring 2024 season. And we know that initially in the very first season, that'll be a big lift for parents. That'll be a new policy. It'll be a new procedure. But we're working on a communication plan that'll let all of our recreation families know about the change. And then in addition, we're going to have plenty of opportunities for them to show the birth certificate. So obviously they can come to our office during regular business hours. We'll have extended business hours in the evenings and the weekends. We'll also be available at many of our basketball practices. And then in addition, a huge thank you to libraries. We've partnered with the libraries, and families will be able to go to the library and have their child's date of birth verified there. So the policy was presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission at their meeting earlier this month, and they recommended for approval of the policy. So would love to entertain any questions you may have or any comments.
Mandy, have you had cases where parents have not given accurate data to place students or children where they think they should be?
Unfortunately, yes.
So this would go a long way toward placing the children correctly, which would probably lead to less injuries.
Correct. There's a lot of research out there, and there's a lot of questions around, should children play up in a sport? And there are situations where there is a child that is very athletic, both mentally and physically, where it might be appropriate for that child to play up, but that decision has to be very carefully made and considered. There's a lot of other situations where playing up is convenient for a family and the child might not be ready. And so this is a topic that our department and the commission talk about pretty regularly, because currently we don't have the manpower to be able to look at a child and verify, can a child move up or not? So the policy is currently that children do not move up and do not play up. That's a decision that's really hard to put on the backs of volunteers to determine if a child should be able to play up. And so the staff is working through conversations of how would we do that. So right now, children are not eligible to play up. And we have had a handful of situations where falsified information has been input into the system so that families can work around that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I would just ask, is this policy used in other localities that you're aware of? So this is not something you're...
No, we are not leading the charge.
Okay.
It is many other localities, almost all are verifying age by birth certificate. And this is one of the things that we recognized. As you all know, we're all fairly new. We've been here now for a few years, and we've been working to look through policies and procedures and what can we improve and what can we work to change where needed. And this was one of the ones that we identified was a need to be added.
Yeah. Have you had much citizen input into this, or was there?
So we've talked to a lot. We rely a lot on our booster club presidents, and we meet with them regularly. And then our team has great relationships with our coaches, and we talk quite frequently with the public. And so there has been a lot of feedback. Most of the time when we hear of the situations where falsified information has happened, it's been because of public feedback.
Okay. Thank you.
The ones in here that you said have not been truthful on the birth certificates or the birth dates, are they trying to get their children advanced into?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we have before us the suggestion to accept this policy, this youth athletics eligibility requirement. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will keep with you, Ms. Adkins, for presentation and consideration of the Recreation Incentive Fund project.
Well, thank you. This is one of my favorite times of the year. The Recreation Incentive Fund is a great program that has been around since 1998. It's a 25-year-long incentive fund program where we offer grant opportunities to organizations who want to provide recreation projects, either new projects or a facelift to old projects. So as you all know, the matching funds are allocated. People apply for a project and we provide a matching fund for any capital improvements that benefit the public and enhance recreation related property. Over $2 million of improvements have been done within Botetourt County since the program started. And this year we have $50,000 available for the program. So proposed projects are located either on county or school board owned property. Some of the project eligibility, those projects have to be consistent with the master plan and of the proposed site. Obviously, we partner a lot with Botetourt County Public Schools. They frequently use these projects and we partner with them to make sure that all these projects align with their master plan as well. Projects have to benefit the general public and enhance recreation-related property or assist in the delivery of parks and recreation initiatives or programs. And then obviously the matching funds are subject to all procurement policies, planning and zoning. So some of the selection criteria that the Parks and Recreation Commission uses when they make their recommendation for the projects, which you're about to hear. They look for projects that either correct or improve the safety and security of a field or a recreation facility, projects that reduce the maintenance or the operating costs, projects that add, enhance, or expand a needed service for the benefit of our citizens or visitors, and then projects that serve the greatest number of people and benefit the entire community or an organized athletic group as opposed to a limited user group. So I'm very excited to present you with these projects today. Our first project is a project from Breckenridge Elementary. Their project is to reseal and reline their basketball court at Breckenridge. As you can see by the photos, this court is in dire need of some maintenance. The total project is $2,400. So the incentive fund request is for $1,200. And as you all know, Breckenridge Elementary serves as a real hub. There's a lot of activity and play that happens there, both formally and informally. So this basketball court will get a much needed facelift. The second project in a similar vein is Cloverdale Elementary. Their basketball court looks about the same. It is in need of repair. So their project is to renovate and update the surfaces and the equipment. So this project you'll see is a higher dollar amount. We have 3 court and track relining, resurfacing. When you're looking at these projects, there's a varying degree at which you can do them. And so the Breckenridge Elementary one is purely just a fix the cracks needed. This one is a total renovation of the project, which you'll see is why the total is different. So this project, the total cost is $17,731, and the incentive fund would cover $8,865. Colonial Elementary has applied for 2 new shade structures at their elementary school to go on the upper and lower playgrounds. And then they would like to install a Gaga pit near one of the upper grade playground. If you're not familiar with Gaga, it is essentially a tamer version of dodgeball, if you will. And so the kids get into the Gaga pit and they have soft balls, and the goal is to hit your opponent with the ball below the knees. I've not played, but I've heard it's a lot of fun. So I think this might be our first Gaga pit at the schools. But so that is their request for their project. The shade structures and the Gaga pit cost will be $15,500, and the incentive fund would cover $7,750. So another track and basketball update at Eagle Rock Elementary. They have proposed to reseal and revamp their outdoor walking track, as well as their basketball blacktop area. You can see from the pictures that surface hasn't been renovated in several years. This project is $6,439. So the incentive fund would cover $3,219. And that track is used on a regular basis, both by the community out of school time hours, and then by the PE department and our athletics teams on a regular basis. James River High School is our next applicant. They have requested funding to add an interactive digital score table to the main gym. This project cost is $15,238. The scores table would be a great asset to have there in the gym. It's highly visible. It can be used as a digital canvas, both for the high school, and James River High School is a great partner of ours, and they allow us to use that gym on a regular basis as well. So the department would also benefit greatly from that asset. The total incentive fund cost for that is $7,619. Troutville Elementary is our next project. They have a few playgrounds, and so the one that they are focused on is the one in the back of the school, which you can see highlighted with the red box. That playground is very old. It is seeing some wear and tear, and the school system looked at what would it take to completely renovate the playground, totally new playground versus how many more years of life could we get out of the playground if we just did some improvements? And that's the direction they've decided to go. This playground still has lots of years of life left in it, just needs some repairs. So those repairs, though, are $23,500. So the Recreation Incentive Fund would be $10,000 towards that project. The next application is from the Buchanan Town Improvement Society. They applied for the community house. They have asked for funding to help with some renovations to the community house, such as repainting windows, doors, shutters, siding, pressure washing the sidewalks, and then some repairs to the kitchen and the basement entrance. This project, the total cost is $30,335, and the Recreation Incentive Fund would cover $10,000 of that project. The community house obviously offers a great deal of value in the Buchanan community and throughout. There's several recreation meetings that happen there. We've also talked to them about partnering for Boco Wild and some other programming that we have in Buchanan, and being able to partner there as well. So this gives you an overall view of the projects, all of the projects. The total dollar amount for project cost is $111,143, and the incentive fund would cover $48,654, which brings us just under our $50,000 allocated budget. I welcome any questions you have about the Recreation Incentive Fund or the projects.
Any questions for Ms. Atkins?
Have to ask this. I mean, they're all great projects. The last one, the Buchanan, does that qualify with the criteria for county owned or school board owned?
So the criteria of the Recreation Incentive Fund is that priority will be given to county owned or school board owned, but it also shows that other organizations and land can apply if it's open to the general public. And can be used by the general public.
Okay.
So yes, sir.
And all this work is anticipated to be procurement, right? Not with any in-house forces.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? I agree. This is a great time to do this right here at Christmas, and you're giving away almost all your money. That's great accounting too, Mandy. So we have before us a proposal for the Recreation Incentive Fund. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Mandy, for that great work. We will now welcome Mr. Mormon, who will present an authorization to request an extension for the completion of the reassessment.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the board. Before I take up this first item, if I may, I thought I would take a few minutes just to provide you an overall update on the process of the county's reassessment and where that stands. And also just as a general reminder of what the reassessment all is and the purpose of it and why we do it. Virginia law, of course, requires that localities update or reassess real estate property within their boundaries regularly. The purpose of this is to ensure that real estate values used for tax purposes reflect market values as those values change over time. Localities may reassess property as often as every year if they wish to do so. Roanoke County and Roanoke City, for example, do this annually. Botetourt County has traditionally conducted reassessments every 4 years. State law requires that reassessments be completed at least every 6 years. By state laws, reassessments must be completed by professional assessors who are trained and certified by the Virginia Department of Taxation, and reassessments must be conducted in compliance with detailed standards and methods laid out in state law. No county official or body has authority over the reassessment or the reassessment results, not the Board of Supervisors, the Commissioner of Revenue, or any county staff. The reassessment is independently conducted by a qualified professional assessor contracted for the purpose. This current reassessment is being conducted by Wampler Eanes Appraisal Group of Daleville. It is law that reassessments reflect market value as determined by a study of actual market sales. The results are reviewed by the Department of Taxation and must be certified as reflective of actual values. If assessed values fail this review, a new reassessment may be ordered and/or the state may withhold revenues from the locality until values are corrected. So where we are in the process today and what is yet to come, Wampler Eanes is currently completed their field work, inspecting properties across the county. They're also verifying and adjusting values as appropriate one last time based on recent sales in the county. And then before the end of January next month, Wampler Eanes will mail reassessment notices to all county property owners. The notices will show the new valuations and include information on how owners can get additional information, provide feedback, and seek changes or corrections. In January and February, Wampler Eanes will hold hearings for any property owners who wish to dispute their reassessment. The firm will then issue written notices of actions taken in response to those hearings. Today, we are asking you to consider a couple actions, one of which is going to be to nominate persons for appointment by the Circuit Court to the Board of Equalization. The Board of Equalization is composed of 5 county property owners with varied knowledge and experience, including in finance, real estate, or development. These persons would consider appeals to valuations from property owners. The Board of Equalization will likely hear challenges during March and April of next year and will work to complete their review by June 30th of 2024. If property owners are not satisfied with the Board of Equalization's decisions, they may also file an appeal with Botetourt County Circuit Court, and the court's decisions are final. So in summary, there are 3 opportunities for property owners to seek redress if they feel a reassessment is inappropriate. The first is with the professional assessor, Wampler Eanes. The second is with the Board of Equalization, and a third is with the Circuit Court. As you know, the county's last reassessment was effective 2020 and resulted in an overall average increase in real estate values of 9.3%. Real estate values have not generally been adjusted since that time, nor has the county real estate tax rate changed, resulting in unchanged real estate tax bills for the past 4 years for most real estate property owners in the county. Given market changes since 2020, it is expected that on average, real estate values determined by Wampler Eanes will be significantly higher than they were 4 years ago. Changes to values of individual properties will depend on many factors and can be expected to vary, with some properties being significantly above the average change and others being significantly below. As I described a few minutes ago, multiple opportunities are available to property owners to help ensure their property valuations are as accurate as possible. Once the reassessment process is completed, the Board of Supervisors will receive a report on the results that it can use to determine what, if any, action it would like to take to mitigate those results. Action may take the form of modification to the county's real estate tax rate, modifications to the county's land use tax program, and/or modifications to its elderly and disabled tax relief program. The Board of Supervisors will hold public hearings on the reassessment as required by law and any contemplated tax rate changes before taking any action. The county currently makes available relief to property owners who place real estate in agricultural, horticultural, forest, and open space uses. It also offers relief to property owners who are 65 years of age and older, and to those who have a permanent and total disability who meet income and net worth qualifications. It should also be noted that the county treasurer offers flexible payment options and plans to county taxpayers to help make payments as convenient as possible. With reassessments going out next month and real estate taxes not due until November of 2024, taxpayers will have approximately 10 months to find options that work best for them. It's important to note that reassessment notices are not tax bills. When property owners receive their reassessment notices next month, no action is required by property owners unless they have questions or wish to challenge a reassessment. Our communications office will be posting information about the reassessment and how property owners can engage in the process on the county's website. And that will be posted at www.botetourtva.gov/reassessment. And that information will be going live here very soon. So the first item I would like to ask you your consideration of, well, first of all, I guess I would ask any questions about any of that overview. I know it was a lot of information. And if not, then the first item I would ask you to consider is requesting of the circuit court an extension of the reassessment process. By default, reassessments are completed by December 31st. As I stated, our reassessment won't be finished. Botetourt County typically requests a 3-month extension of the court, and we'd ask you to consider a request of the court again this time. That would take it through the end of March of 2024. And if you request that extension, the county attorney would help submit that to the circuit court for their consideration.
Thank you for the information, Mr. Mormon. Do we have any questions? And we have before us the recommendation to authorize the county attorney to submit a request to the circuit court judge requesting a 3-month extension to March 31, 2024 for completion of the reassessment. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman. The second item would be the nomination of citizens to the Board of Equalization. And also, if I may ask for you to consider approval of compensation for a member serving on the board. The county is required to recommend members to the Board of Equalization to the Circuit Court for appointment. As mentioned earlier, the board serves as an appeals board for challenges submitted by county property owners of their reassessments. Virginia law requires that members of the Board of Equalization be residents of the county, be, quote, broadly representative of the community, end quote, and attend and participate in training provided by the Virginia Department of Taxation. You have a list of individuals that have been recommended to you for this purpose. All of these individuals served in the 2020 Board of Equalization. They are Mr. John Kilby. He's a former CEO of the Bank of Fincastle. Mr. Ralph Smith, former state senator and a business owner. Mr. Lewis Sifford, a realtor and developer. Mr. Bobby Omer, a former Board of Supervisors member and employee of Roanoke Cement Company. And Ms. Allison Lucas, a pharmacist here in the county. So if it would be your pleasure to nominate those or other individuals as you may wish, would ask your consideration of that. And then secondly, as I mentioned, Board of Equalization members are compensated for their service. It's recommended that an hourly rate of $24 an hour be authorized. That's a little over 9% increase since the 2020 reassessment. And in addition, if members wish to be reimbursed for mileage for use of a personal vehicle in performance of these duties, that be authorized at the IRS approved rate of 65.5 cents per mile.
Thank you. So the proposal before us, the recommendation is to nominate the individuals named to the Board of Equalization for the 2024 reassessment and direct staff to forward those names to the circuit court judge for appointment. That's John Kilby, Ralph Smith, Lewis Sifford, Robert Omer, and Allison Lucas. Additionally, to authorize compensation of this Board of Equalization members in the amount of $24 per hour plus 65.5 cents per mile if their personal vehicles are used. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mormon. Moving on to item 18. Ms. Pendleton, if you could come forward, please, and give us an Apex update.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chairwoman and members, Dr. Bailey, Mr. Martin, thank you for your service to the county. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much for that. I will have a very similar update to the update that I shared last month regarding the plan reviews. We did submit the on-site plan comments back to Apex, and we are still working through the off-site plan reviews. It's been a tremendous amount of plans to review, plans to inspect. Our office is just at an all-time high in terms of capacity and of course still not at capacity, sorry, all-time high in terms of what we're reviewing, at an all-time low in terms of capacity, working to fill shortage vacancies and all of that. So there really is no update to share in terms of where we are in plan review. By this time next month, we should have channeled that information back to Apex on the offsite. So that's the road construction plans. They're, very lengthy to get through, but the substance of them, majority goes through VDOT, again, supporting the on-site work. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. I'm happy to interact, to, provide any other information as we have it to share. So thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Pendleton?
So I would just ask Ms. Pendleton, I think you all returned comments to them. I mean, I'm getting a little bit lost in where all this is in the process, but do they have a time period to get those comments rectified or adjusted back to you?
They do not.
They do not.
Nope. And the state code really has forever really limited the amount of time that we would ever have to deem any types of plans. So that's not something that this county has ever really done when it comes to timeframes for site plans. And even if we were to do something like that, typically the state has stepped in from time to time and made it so that we couldn't really have those deadlines in place as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you, Ms. Pendleton. Regarding the Apex project, I also would like to ask Mr. Lockaby if he would update us on litigation and any activity that has occurred since your last update.
Yes, ma'am. So there are two cases ongoing relating to the wind farm. The first of which has to do with whether the original or with whether the special exception permit or SEP was grandfathered under a state statute. Basically, the issue was that the SEP itself required approval of the site plan within a year. There was a state law put in place, which at this point makes it so that all deadlines are grandfathered until 2025, July 1 of 2025. There was there were various arguments about whether and to what extent that extended the expiration date. Ultimately, our Board of Zoning Appeals determined that the expiration date in the SEP was pushed out until 2025 by the state law. That went to circuit court. We did not, and what the Virginians for Responsible Energy wanted was for it to be remanded to the BZA to hear it again, or for the circuit court to overturn the BZA. We did not take a position on the substantive issue of whether the grandfathering was in effect. To an extent, that was an issue of two people playing tennis, and the county was unfortunate enough to be the net. With regard to remand to the Board of Zoning Appeals, we opposed that. Simply put, if there had been more than enough argument at the BZA about that. We have a hearing in another case, which has to do with whether a temporary concrete batch plant that would be used to provide concrete to pour for footings is basically whether it's a piece of construction equipment or whether it's an independent use that requires independent permitting. We are in the process of arguing that case. Our brief for that will be due next Friday, not this coming, but the one after that, the 29th. And we'll argue that case on January the 18th. So we should know whether there will be an appeal in the first case by mid to late January. And the second case, as I said, will be argued in mid-January.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lockaby? Thank you. We will hear an update on those cases next month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. LaRue. Consider resolution to dissolve relationship with Bark Connects as an internet service provider.
Thank you, board members, and it's a pleasure to be here in front of you. And I also would like to thank Mr. Martin and Dr. Bailey for all of their service and time and effort and energy that have placed into the board's activities over the past number of years. And it has been a complete pleasure working with you two in individually and in combination. And so thank you for everything that you've done to help push this county forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I bring to you today a resolution that in essence is to dissolve a relationship with an internet service provider that has never provided any internet services in Botetourt County. So give just a little bit of background to this is that Botetourt County has not been involved with Bark financially. We have not provided any funding for this project. However, Bark did get some federal funds years ago to build out the Arcadia area north on around I-81 with fiber to the home. And they were in conjunction with Dominion Power that actually built out a tremendous amount of their service area with middle mile service. And so Bark was to come in and build out the last mile service that would be to the home. And through a series of times and meetings and pushing and prodding, we've come to the conclusion, actually at the bequest of Bark to a certain extent, saying that they are not going to build that service area. So what we would like to do is to actually ask them to relinquish those census block areas that they have somewhat control of right now through the federal government, and that then they would end up paying back those dollars that were associated to the federal government. As I mentioned, there are no dollars owed to Botetourt County. What this is just helping to support the effort of getting other providers into that area. One of the things that I think is important is to just remember that we've been on this quest for fiber to the home since 2017 and have made huge dents in that and are really moving forward with getting fiber to the home. What I've said along the way is that when two or more are gathered together, we would talk about getting fiber to the home, and it has actually worked, and we're getting lots of people connected along the way. We started that off with the CBEC, with the Craig Botetourt Electric Co-op. Then we've moved on to Lumos. And matter of fact, there are two applications today that are due today. One is for Lumos for this area that we're talking about that Bark was to serve. And another one is Comcast in a area in Blue Ridge and Cloverdale area. So with that as the background, I will ask for questions maybe at the end of reading this. And if you have questions, I'll try to answer those. Botetourt County recommends dissolution of a relationship with BARC Connects as an internet service provider. Whereas Botetourt County has been actively working on improving broadband connectivity throughout our community since 2017. And whereas over the last 6 years, the county has secured over $2 million with the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, VATI, grant funds, $569,808 in CARES Act Fast Track grant funds, and has attracted multiple new broadband providers to the area. And whereas Botetourt County recognizes that access and affordability to reliable internet coverage is more critical than ever before, and the county wishes to ensure that all of our citizens and businesses have the opportunity to have broadband connectivity. And whereas Botetourt County has been working with local internet providers to build a broadband network throughout the county, spanning from the southern Botetourt County to the northern Botetourt County. And whereas Botetourt County administration has been working with BARC Connects to build broadband connectivity in partnership with Dominion Energy in the northern end of Botetourt County, BARC Connects does not currently have customers in Botetourt County, but instead serves residents in Rockbridge County and other areas. And whereas Botetourt County has been informed by BARC Connects that they will not be able to complete the planned internet project in the county described by BARC. And whereas Botetourt County met with representatives from BARC Connects, Dominion Energy, and affected citizens on November the 21st of 2023 to strategize plans of making the broadband build a possibility. And whereas after the meeting, county administration is not confident that BARC Connects can complete the project, which would leave approximately 671 homes without fiber to the homes and services. And whereas BARC Connect appears to lack the necessary capital resources to meet the demands of the project, and their assessment does not suggest a financially stable or sustainable operation in the long term. And whereas there has been a significant delay in BARC's communication regarding their fiscal financial constraints, which has affected both Botetourt officials, residents, and whereas Dominion Energy has made a substantial contribution to the broadband project by spending approximately $15 million to build the middle mile to make broadband a reality for the residents in the northern Botetourt County. And whereas Botetourt County recommends that the partnership with BARC Connects be discontinued and that the county and Dominion Energy be allowed to seek another internet provider to take over the project and complete the broadband installation. And whereas Botetourt County asks that BARC Connects relinquish census blocks in Botetourt County so that another internet provider can access them and build the project. And whereas it is recommended that Botetourt County administration work with BARC Connects and the Department of Housing, Community Development, and other state and federal agencies to assist BARC Connects with relinquishing BARC census blocks in Botetourt County and return federal funds awarded to BARC for the Botetourt fiber to the home broadband build. Now therefore be it resolved that the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors does hereby discontinue the partnership with BARC Connects to build fiber to the home in northern Botetourt County, and does hereby approve Botetourt County administration to work with Dominion Power in their quest to seek new internet providers to bring the essential services to our neighbors and businesses in northern Botetourt County. Do you have questions that might need to be addressed?
Any questions? I will just comment, what a difference a month makes. This time last month, we were not aware of this situation with BARC. As the resolution states, we learned this on November 21st, that they would be unable to serve the homes in northern Botetourt, of which mine is one. We had a meeting with them here, and I did bring some citizens with me. Obviously, this is not good news, but I am one to try to make lemonade out of lemons. And I just want to commend the efforts of the county staff, particularly Ken McFadden, who has led since that night a really Herculean effort, not only to dissolve this relationship and begin the process of releasing these blocks, but he's probably at his computer right now, furiously typing, to submit a new proposal that is due at 5 o'clock to form a completely new relationship. I also want to commend Dominion Power. They have been fantastic partners. They have put significant effort, time, and money into this project. Their middle mile is built. So they have been more than willing to work with us to identify another partner when we learned at the same time on November 21st that Bark would not be a partner for them. So all that being said, we're working hard to get an alternative plan in place. I commend the efforts of the county, Gary. Thank you all for doing this. This represents 671 homes. That's a lot of our citizenry. It's a large part of my constituency. And these people, as we talked with Senator Warner when he was here, every home matters, every address matters. And I will not rest until we get service to these homes. And I thank you for supporting me in that.
Madam Vice Chair, this is evidence of threading the needle, of being able to actually be creative and being nimble enough to be able to actually bring in other providers for this area, I think is the opportunity here. So as you said, making lemonade out of lemons, and that is totally the truth.
Yeah.
It is to the point also that Bark actually appealed their own operation through the federal process in this. So they actually filed an appeal against themselves because they knew that they could not provide the services, and was hoping that they could end up relinquishing this territory. So I think this is a good move. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So do we need to vote to approve?
You would need to adopt the resolution.
So are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to approve this resolution?
Make a motion to adopt this resolution, Madam Vice Chair.
Second.
And I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chief Ferguson, if you'll come back up, please.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Vice Chair and members, you have before you an agenda item related to the consideration of resolution accepting the dissolution of the Glen Wilton Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad Incorporated. Just for a little history there, obviously this is a volunteer organization that was established back in 1965, primarily as a fire department. And in the late 80s, early 90s, they began providing emergency medical services as an extension of the Eagle Rock Rescue Squad. And about 2010-ish, that faded off just based on the number of personnel available and trained EMS personnel, et cetera. Since that time, they've been a fire department operation with first responder EMS capabilities. Certainly that area presents a dynamic challenge for us, given that it is an established community in our rural section of northern Botetourt County, where nothing is quick to get there as far as neighbors are concerned. For the past 2.5, 3 years, we have been providing what would be considered automatic mutual aid, which means that they're not dispatched by themselves unless it's just some service type of call that's not an emergency. So if there's a fire, if there's a medical event in the community, Glen Wilton would be dispatched, but also the neighboring agency that would be appropriate, whether that be Iron Gate, which obviously is an Allegheny overseen agency, or Eagle Rock, which has been the bulk of the responses into the Glen Wilton community. I was approached by Chief Keyser about a month and a half ago after an attempt between Eagle Rock and Glen Wilton to merge their personnel and dissolve the incorporation that did not go through as intended. once the water settled, Chief Keyser had reached out to me, wanted to speak with myself, and I took Deputy Chief Johnson. We had a meeting with 4 of their members. They said that they had met and thought about it, and they realized that they did not have the membership. They did not have the folks to draw from in the community to recruit new energy into the station there, and that they were ready to dissolve the incorporation. My advice to them at that time was they needed to seek legal counsel from most likely the counselor that was part of the initial process, which they did, who then reached out to Mr. Lockaby to draft the information you have before you. I did share with them, and certainly this would come back in January from some acknowledgement of that organization and acknowledgement of folks that have served up there that still have a desire to continue to serve in some capacity. Is that the operations by far is always the key to this whole thing. The administrative stuff, the paperwork, there's people to do that. The real key here is how do we handle emergency response to the community? So I just want to make certain we're all clear. It is not the intent of myself or our department to shut down that facility. It's our intent to find ways to maximize its use with volunteers. I made it very clear to them that it does not make logical fiscal sense to staff the facility. Obviously, we're in the process of doing some things with getting the Eagle Rock truck online from a 24/7 perspective as far as the career staffed ambulance crew. And then certainly after the first of the year, the intent is to bring Eagle Rock and Iron Gate to the table along with the remnants of the Glen Wilton members to discuss how do we best cover that area into the future. Because that is certainly a concern. The incorporation's dissolution that's a business matter. I don't think that it in any way is going to negatively impact the response because it's already a very minimal response at its basis. The good news here is that they do not have any liabilities. They have a sum of cash that would be transferred over to the county at the appropriate time, and the intent of that would be to reinvest it in that fire station and the operations there. The fire station certainly used to be an elementary school historically, and there's a lot of deferred maintenance that could go into the facility and into at least one of the apparatus that we had some plans to refresh anyway. So I'll digress there and answer any questions that you may have before considering the resolution.
Questions?
I would just have comments. Chief Ferguson, thank you for working through this process. Obviously, this is in the Fincastle District. And first, I'd like to say thank you to the members who have manned that facility over the years past. And, you know, understandably, it's not able to be manned sufficiently now. You know, it seems like there's some future ahead, and, you know, it's under new guidance now, and, you know, hope for the best for that. But again, thank you for seeing through that. And, you know, before I just refresh memory, what equipment is there?
So right now there's a fire engine, a tanker that can also operate as a engine, a brush truck, a utility truck, and then a pickup truck.
Okay.
I do have intentions of downsizing the fleet in the facility to right size it for the amount of responses, make sure that there's an adequate amount of apparatus to serve the community up there. And we've done some of that over the past couple of years, like with the fire engine that is up there. It is not the 2009 brand new engine that was placed there when it was purchased because it was not being utilized and maximized for its investment.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions?
I'll echo what Dr. Bailey said. I think it's very important to make sure that we do have someone that can respond to emergencies down there. And I know you're trying on that, and, you know, we're grateful for that and appreciate that. You've done a great job trying to keep all this together. You know, you're the glue and putting it together. So we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have before us a recommendation to endorse this resolution to accept the dissolution of the Glen Wilton Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad Incorporated.
Madam Vice Chair, I would make a motion that we endorse the resolution as stated.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution is endorsed.
Thank you. And
Thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure working with you over the past.
Same. Thanks for all you
You
do.
as well.
Okay, we are working our way toward the end here. We will now go to our appointments, agenda item 21. I have 2 walk-on items to add. I will do those first. The first one, Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare has requested that Dr. Elizabeth Leffel be reappointed to the Board of Directors as a representative of Botetourt County for a second 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mm-mm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Second, Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare has requested that Ms. Helen Ferguson's reappointment to the Board of Directors as an at-large representative for a second 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2026 be ratified by the Board of Supervisors.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now to the appointments listed on the agenda. Consider appointment of Beth Leffel to the Planning Commission to replace Brandon Nicely with a term expiring January 1st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider appointment for alternate citizen representative to the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do we have anyone to,
Is this just to make the spot available?
It's an alternate for him.
It's not working.
it's on Gary.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking down here. What this is an alternate for myself, and it can end up being a citizen alternate if you choose to do so. So
We don't have to name a person.
you probably need to name a person. So that would, every community does not have an alternate, but some communities do. So I don't know if there's any volunteers or anything that might be interested in that, but.
So with permission, I would like to ask Mr. Billy Martin. Would you consider that alternate position?
Would be glad to.
So, Madam Vice Chair, I would like to appoint Mr. Billy Martin as an alternate to the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission.
And I will second that motion. Any discussion?
Good move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Martin. And last, we have a resignation from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Gene Cash has resigned effective January 1st, 2024. The appointment is made by the circuit court judge. So what the Board of Supervisors does is recommend someone for the circuit court judge to appoint. And this term expires on March 31st, 2025. Mr. Brian Blake has agreed to take on this term if we move to recommend him to the circuit court judge.
Like a motion to that effect?
All right, I'd second that.
A motion and a second to recommend Mr. Brian Blake to the circuit court judge for service on the Board of Zoning Appeals. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for that. We now come to a new period in our agenda for citizen comments. These are comments that are on non-agenda items. So do we have any citizens signed up to speak, Ms. Bess? Do we have any citizens that would like to speak? Thank you. Moving on then to our last agenda item for this portion of our meeting. Board member comments.
Madam
Anything?
Vice Chair, may I say something? I've
Absolutely.
really enjoyed working with all you guys. It's been a great journey. And I'm going to miss you guys. I really am, but it's been fun. I think we've accomplished a lot. And, you know, I really appreciate all you guys are doing and you're going to do. It's been great. So thank you again.
Madam Vice Chair, I'd like to follow in line with that same sentiment. Again, thanks for the nice comments today from various people. I want to especially thank Mr. Martin. Mr. Billy Martin has served on this board for 16 years. During that time, he has held numerous leadership and committee positions. And I just can't imagine the number of hours over the last 16 years that you have spent on behalf of Botetourt County, and especially the people of Blue Ridge. That is a remarkable effort. And I just can't say enough about that. There's others on this board who will remain on this board that have served long times, and my hat's off to them as well. And thank you, Ms. White, for stepping up and being on this board as well. But there's a person missing here today. Means a lot to me, and that's Dr. Scott. He's been a real friend. I hate he's sick today.
Yeah, I do too.
I wish him the best. I hope he's not, you know, sick for long. But you know, I've developed a real special relationship with that man, and he's just super. So I wish him all the best, and you know, happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. Can we have another acknowledgement of these two? I think it's very appropriate that we can go out of this session with the, we did a lot of action today. And the one I think I'm most proud of and that I want you two to hold on to is we made a tremendous commitment to public safety for our citizens going forward. You're both a part of that. And I hope you see that as just a small part of your legacy. And the fact that you have remained so active right to the end of your terms is just spectacular. You're wonderful role models for all of us. And we appreciate you so much. And we will recess and reconvene at 6 p.m. for our one public hearing.
Good man, John.
Well done. Long agenda.